Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I tackle the Draw This Again challenge. Now I saw this challenge across YouTube on different art channels, and I thought it would be pretty interesting to try it out, just for the reason of gauging what kind of progression that I've made as an artist. Now, the portrait I decided to choose was my Lana Del Rey that I actually drew last year, May 2015. And this was one of the very first watercolor portraits that I did, and I wanted to recreate the image because I really like this image myself. I love the colors and just the way that she looks. So I thought this would be a good starting point for this challenge. Now I'm probably going to be doing the challenge for other paintings that I really like. But yeah, we'll just take it easy and start with Lana Del Rey. You can actually see the old video. So I did post the speed painting video of this actual portrait from 2015, and you will find the link in the description below. And it's pretty interesting to see just even the progression with YouTube in terms of video creation and quality. I think even then it's a huge progression. But yeah, the main focus of this challenge was basically the art and to test my skill to see what I have improved on and what has changed over the years, what has gotten easier, the different types of mediums that I've been using. So it's pretty quite interesting. For the old portrait from 2015, there were a few things that I actually remember that I did. In terms of the actual painting, I found her photo online and I wanted to paint it just because she was such an inspiration to me at the time. And I can remember the feeling of not being able or not confident enough to draw the skin. So at that point, I wasn't quite comfortable with skin color in terms of coloring with watercolor and or just pencil crayon. I didn't really know how to do it, and I didn't want to go through the effort, which is why I did her in black and white, because it was just easier for me to understand. And in fact, this did help me a lot just because I was able to just focus on the shadow and creating or working on my technique in creating sort of like a 3D effect in a way where you kind of try to make it realistic with the shadowing. And so that's one of the things that I did learn from the 2015 one. Another thing that I actually ended up doing was using floral, so like the roses and the flowers, using it as a way to cover up her body because I wasn't confident enough to draw her body either. So I just filled it in with some floral stuff and painted it pink with leaves. And actually this was sort of like a trademark of the brushes and bunny style, and it's something that I do quite often in some of my older portraits, and it's something that I still want to incorporate with my current art that I'm doing now. So for the 2016 portrait, I decided to do her in actual color rather than grayscale because at this point I feel that with my skill, grayscale, black and white is quite simple to do now, and this is all about challenging yourself, which is why I did her in just regular color. And this was actually quite fun because now I know how to incorporate different types of things together, and now I'm actually incorporating marker to even out the tones and to blend some of the things even better, and it's starting to look really great together. So for her skin, I used a combination of watercolor, which was the very first layer that I put was watercolor. I then started to add more shadows with the marker, and I used a combination of the Copic Ciao markers as well as the Touch Twin Tip markers. I then went over with more Polychromos pencil crayons for the detail. I used a little bit of fine liner for the eyes, and I kept layering on top of layer with watercolor to finalize the skin tone. Now, the paper that I'm using is watercolor paper, which is why, when I'm working with watercolor, I obviously need to use watercolor paper. I haven't tried mixed media paper. I'm not sure how well this would work, but I'm pretty happy with the results with watercolors for now. So the watercolor paper has been working quite well with everything that I've been doing. So I will just stick to that for now. So in terms of the hair, I think that the hair was the most challenging part of this portrait because it's still something that I need to work on a lot. Now, if you take a look at the 2015 version compared to the 2016 one, you can see that there isn't that much of a difference. I still start off with the watercolor layer, which is the initial base of the coloring, and then I start to progress by adding more watercolor on top of it. I then take out the pencil crayon and I start to make individual hair strands, for example. I have started to do this a little bit with the markers as well, but my technique hasn't really improved for creating hair. And that's kind of my fault because I haven't been practicing hair as much as I would have liked. I'm not really sure how to improve this at this point. I think I don't know. I've always had an issue with drawing hair with watercolor. It seems to be quite easy to just apply layer on top of layer and just having like a basic watercolor kind of shape. But I feel kind of lazy just doing that. I just want to make it look as realistic as possible. And I think the best way to achieve this is to work on hair with pencil crayons. Because hair is so stringy and fine and thin, and it's really easy to make realistic hair with pencil crayon. And with watercolor, it just looks like one flat, basic kind of shape. And this is kind of hard to control with watercolor, so I know that this is something that I have to keep improving and practicing. Now, something that I know for sure that I've improved on is not only my technique, but it's also my technique in terms of painting floral. So in the 2015 portrait, I've added roses in her hair and also around her chest area. And these were just roses that I did in watercolor. Now they're just simple roses you can achieve in watercolor, and they're actually quite easy to do, but they don't have much detail and they don't really have petals, and it's just not realistic. It's more so of like to me, it just looked like a pink blob on the paper on her head, for example. And something that I really wanted to achieve was to have more so of a realistic look to the flowers. And to do this, I layered just the watercolor foundation of the colors. This time I changed up the roses a little bit as well. I added gray roses in her hair and a combination of pink as well. And I used the watercolor base and pencil crayon and a little bit of marker to achieve really a defined, realistic look as much as possible. And this is all techniques that I have learned by just practicing. Another pretty striking difference is the fact that I have been starting to draw and paint on larger formats. So originally I was kind of intimidated to draw on bigger pieces of paper just because I couldn't get the proportions right and it just didn't work out, and there was just too much space to fill and I did not know how to do backgrounds. I would pretty much just focus on the main subject, which was either a human face or a bunny, for example, like a pet. And the background was pretty much white. I would maybe fill it in with some flowers, fill it in with some text. I would try to attempt to do some backgrounds, but it just wasn't working. So because of that, I would end up painting on much smaller formats. And something that I actually noticed was that the very first, once I started this challenge, I pulled out one of my biggest sizes in terms of the watercolor paper. And I had no fear. I had no feeling of oh, I don't know if I can do this or not. It seems like too much space to fill in. I won't get her proportions right. Not sure if I could even do it. And I did not even have that thought, just because I became confident over the years that I could actually draw on something bigger. And it's something that I actually recommend for you guys to do, is to train yourself. So you could start in a little sketchbook, like a common A4 size, for example, like regular printed piece of paper, like a printer paper. And as you kind of keep practicing and progressing, you can actually increase the size of the paper that you're drawing on. And this is just kind of like a mental test, or a mental practice, where you just go ahead and do it and gradually increase the size. And after a while, you're gonna find yourself that you can actually draw in larger formats. And this is really good, especially if you want to end up painting on an actual canvas one day, because canvases, you can paint them on small ones, but you can also do very, very big canvases. And this is really, really cool, and it's actually a skill in itself to learn. So I was actually very, very excited, and in fact proud of myself, because I was achieving something that maybe a year or 2 years ago I never thought would be possible. I was scared to draw in larger formats. I didn't know what to do, and I never thought that I would be able to achieve it one day. It was actually quite of a scary thought. I wanted to get there eventually, but I didn't know how, and I didn't know when. And now that I'm doing it without even thinking about it, I think that's an achievement in itself. So yeah, so I definitely would recommend that you try this. You just keep, you know, increasing the size as you go. So just to basically sum this challenge up, I think it's a super important thing that you guys should probably try. It really helps you to establish the types of milestones you've set for yourself, to see the progression, and because you really can't see the progression as, you know, you keep drawing every day, you just don't think about it and you really can't see it, and you just have the thought that you're just not good enough and you're not improving, but that's actually not true. You are improving. Every single time that you draw something, you're improving your technique and your skill. So give it a try. Take an old photo that you've drawn, something either like watercolor painting or just a sketch will also work, and try to recreate it. Even if it's a few months old, just give it a try and see what you've learned. I think it's really, really cool to just touch base with yourself in that regards. You can find all of the products that I have used for this mixed media painting below in the description. If you guys have any questions about it, you guys can leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer it. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I really, really appreciate your support and your subscribership, or however you call it. It really gives me the motivation to keep painting and to also do really cool content for you guys. So please give it a big like and comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. If you guys are new and watching this, please subscribe. I really, really am grateful for the support. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video, and I wish you guys a very, very nice day.